Hey, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. If you've happened to listen to some previous episodes from me, you would have heard when I'm talking about real estate agents and what the role of the real estate agent is. Basically, the role of the real estate agent is to be an expert marketer of the property. So basically that means getting as many people to come and have a look at the house as possible, and also be an expert negotiator. So once you get these people come there, try and get as many people as possible to put in offers, and then go backwards and forwards and be able to try and get them to pay the highest possible price. Essentially, that's all the agent's job to do. And this is the thing, a lot of people don't necessarily, they see all the other things agents are doing and handing out flyers and, hey John, thanks for joining. And they think that's basically it. But to be honest, that's all that matters. Everything else, you can pay someone $25 an hour to do everything else that an agent does, drive around, signing contracts, all the rest of the stuff. They don't really need the skills to be able to do those type of things, because anyone can do that stuff. What they really need to do is work out how they get heaps of people there and how they get them to pay us the highest price. And so you might be asking, well, how do I know if my agent's really good at negotiating? So one of the ways to try and work out whether they're good at negotiating is, does the agent want you to take the house to auction? Basically, auction is a way for the agent to be able to outsource the negotiation process. So, because the good thing as far as the agent's concerned, they have like a 4-week marketing campaign where they hand out a few flyers and have a few opens, and then quite often nowadays too, they outsource the auction process to another agent or another person who will come in and actually hold the auction. So the good thing for the agent, they don't have to have that hard conversation with the buyers trying to get them to pay more money than they otherwise would, and they don't. So, and the other thing too, what it does is sort of conditions the owner, because they're forced to have to make a decision on the day whether they're going to accept the offer or not. And so there's not so much opportunity to go backwards and forwards, and likewise for the buyer to be able to have to try and get the buyer to pay more money, but likewise for the vendor, you're not giving them opportunity to really think about whether that's the right thing for them. So that's why you're going to find a lot of agents are probably going to steer towards the auction path, purely because it makes their job a lot easier, to be honest. And so that's probably one sign the agent's probably not particularly confident in negotiating, is why they choose to go to the auction process. Another way of trying to work out whether an agent's good at negotiating or not is, you may have actually had another agent, you bought a property off another agent, or you've heard from friends, or you've actually had an agent sell for you before, and you might have had the experience where, they've come to you and they said, you put in an offer and they said, you got to put in your best and highest offer, and, and that's it. You're not going to get another opportunity to put in another offer. So the reason I think that's probably not doing their job effectively, essentially, is because, no agents use that line so often that people don't believe them. People don't believe that they're not going to come back, and they don't believe they have to put the highest price in. They've always got in the back of their mind that the agent is going to come back to them, and they always believe they have to offer less than what the agent's asking for, because they have all this perception too, is that properties are always overpriced when they go on the market, and the owners are willing to accept less. And so agents come in and reinforce that by saying, hey, you've got to put in your highest and best offer, otherwise you're going to miss out on the property. And so then people don't really believe that, because they haven't really had a chance to do the backwards and forwards thing. The danger with this, what this means is potentially the agent can leave some money on the table from the buyer, because the buyer's expecting that agent to come back. And even if the agent is true to their word and they don't come back to them, the reason why I think that's not doing the owners any justice is because you should be going back to everybody. You should be going, I understand why it's easier for the agent just to get the offer and just say, hey, put your best and highest offer in, and then go back to the owner and say, hey, that's it, that's all I could get. But at the end of the day, you're getting paid a lot of money to negotiate on the price of the property, and it's amazing how much difference you can make by just going back and asking that person, are they willing to pay any more? It's the amount of times when I'm looking at comparable sales and looking at the price things have sold for, and you see they've sold for $350 or $360 or $370. You can't tell me that the owners, that buyer is not willing to pay an extra $5,000 or an extra $1,000 or an extra $100. When you're talking $350,000, you can't tell me they wouldn't pay, $355,000 or $353,000 or $352,000 or $350,500, because when you see the property sold for $350,000, I always wonder, how much more would that owner, that buyer, been willing to pay? At the end of the day, even if it's only an extra $100, the job of the agent is to get the highest possible price for the owner. And so that extra $100, they're getting paid to look after the owner. They're getting paid to try and get the highest possible price. So that $100 should be going back in the owner's pocket, not in the buyer's pocket. So that's why, when I see agents just saying, hey, put in your highest and best offer, and otherwise you're not going to get another chance, then for me, it just seems a bit lazy. The agent should be going backwards and forwards. So, and that difference of going backwards and forwards and giving someone else someone another opportunity. I've had experiences in the past. I just sold a house recently where I think the first offer came in at $585, and then I went backwards and forwards, and I managed to negotiate them up to $600,000. And then I went backwards and forwards again, trying to get more buyers involved in the process, and then got up to, I think, 610, and I think we finally ended up at 625. So we went from 585 up to 625. So that's an extra, whatever that is, $40,000 just by me going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. Yeah, and when you think about it, you might get 10, 15, 20 grand to sell a house. It's not that hard for me to get in my car and drive backwards and forwards a few times and a few more phone calls, just trying to find out whether that's the maximum that person's willing to pay. Trying to get more people putting in offers so that, obviously then that person has more people they have to compete against. And so you can sort of see that, the amount of value an agent can create just purely by having negotiating skills. And you don't even have to have that great at negotiating skills. You just have to try a little bit harder. At the end of the day, just by putting a little bit more effort and the thing is, you don't even have to do it in a rude way. When I'm negotiating with buyers, I don't necessarily have to start yelling at them saying, hey, they have to pay more, you have to pay more. I just let them know politely that, obviously the more they offer, the more chance they get of getting the property. And because essentially they don't know what the other offers are going to be, and obviously I don't even know what the other offers will be. Until I go out and talk to all the other potential buyers, I don't really know what the final price is going to be. So all I do is just let them know the more they offer, the more chance they're going to getting it. And so what I do then is essentially say that to everybody. I go back to the other offers and say, hey, well, I know you offers this, but at the end of the day, the more you offer, the more chance you're going to getting it. Are you sure you don't want to miss out for the sake of, $1,000? And when you're talking $600 and something thousand, for the sake of $1,000, they wouldn't want to miss out on it, really. And so, and then you get to the point where, they've added $1,000, you say to them, hey, you sure you don't want to miss out for the sake of $500? And then try again, you sure you don't want to miss out for the sake of $100? Because when you're talking that sort of money, it can be the difference. I've sold a property recently, it sold for $1.3 million, and over $1.3 million, and I was getting offers where relatively close, and the person that ended up getting the property, they only got it because they put in an extra $10,000 more than another offer was. So you can see in the scheme of things, it's a relatively small amount of money, but that was the difference between getting the property and not getting the property. I've had plenty of other examples where it's a $300,000 property and they've come in at $301,000, and that was the difference between them getting the property compared to someone else getting the property. So you can see now why it's really important for the agent to go back to people. And at the end of the day, it's not about the extra $100, to be honest. Quite often my owners are going, hey, well, that $100, that's fine. You can leave that on the table. It's not the end of the world if I miss out on that extra $100 from the potential buyer. But the thing for me and what I say to my owners is, it's not about the $100. That $100 in your pocket is not the reason we're doing this. $100 is the reason I'm going back to the buyers, is to make sure we're getting the highest possible price, because that's my obligation. That's what I'm legally bound to do, get the highest possible price for my owners. And until I go back and find out what the maximum is going to be, and even if it is an extra $100, at least I know then that's the maximum that person was willing to pay, and I know that I've done my job correctly. So hopefully that's made sense, and hopefully you understand why, it is a bit of a scam when agents sort of say, hey, put your highest and best offer in, otherwise I'm not coming back. Because that's their job, is to come back, and their job is to get the highest price. And then, it's amazing how often I talk to people that are disappointed because they were willing to pay more money, but the agent never came back to them. They never returned their phone calls, and they found out it's actually sold for less than they were willing to pay for it. And that's money that would have gone into the owner's pocket, and that's money that that buyer was willing to pay, and they wouldn't have been disappointed about paying more money because they missed out on a property they otherwise would have gotten. So hopefully you can see how it all works, and hopefully it makes sense to you. And if you've liked what I had to say, click on the like button. If you haven't liked it, still click on the like button, because I really appreciate it. And if you've got a comment about that, if you'd had a situation in the past where you've missed out on a property, where you would have paid more money but the agent never came back to you. I'd love to hear about it. Or if you've got something you'd like me to talk about in a future episode, I'd love to hear about that too, and I'm happy to have a chat about that. So thanks, guys, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye.